Well, hi everyone. Gordon Turnbull here at John Knox. And I'd like to visit with you today about testimony, witnessing, proclamation of the truth about God in Jesus Christ. And I'm back in the 10th chapter of Paul's letter to the Romans. Last time we visited, I suggested the connection between the truth spoken aloud, the proclamation, and the reality of our salvation in God. We talked about Paul saying, if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. So we know that salvation and we speak it aloud. And what I want to suggest today is that our speaking it aloud creates the conditions by which God can help other people come to salvation. That is, that the word that you received from somebody who loved you enough to tell you the truth about Jesus, that took root in your life, that deepened your understanding, that brought you to an awareness, that word that someone spoke to you about Jesus is a word that you are called at some point to speak aloud as well. In your way, in your language, in your style, but with God's truth, authentically, to say your version of what it means that you belong to God in Jesus Christ. That's daunting for some people to consider. Oh, I'm not eloquent. I don't know how to talk like that. I'm not a preacher. Well, preaching Christian doctrine is different from and a different kind of animal than testifying to the truth of who you are. We're very good at explaining who we are. We can tell everybody the story about where we were born or what our family was like, what town we grew up in, where we went to school, jobs we've had, teams we follow. Can we speak with the same kind of freedom about the God whom we serve? About why that matters to us? About what blessing or benefit or goodness comes to us because we trust that God loves us? What Paul says later in chapter 10, in verse 17, is that faith comes from hearing, and hearing through the word of Christ. The word of Christ, the truth about Christ proclaimed aloud, creates a hearing that brings other people to faith. People hear that word, just as you did, right? People hear that word, and they consider this truth about God. And what you know, I'm sure, is that people close to you will consider that word more deeply because that word's coming from you. Wouldn't it be powerful if all of us were more comfortable with just very naturally sharing our self-understanding as people who belong to Jesus Christ? Wouldn't the world see Christ more clearly and perhaps be more trusting of God if they knew that people like you were taking God seriously and seeking to be faithful? So I want to encourage you to discover your words, your language, your story about yourself in relationship to God as a follower of Jesus Christ. And then may God bless you as you find ways to express that very good news in word and deed and your own particular style. Go in God's grace today.